Hey, welcome back. If you're hearing my voice right now, it probably means sleep has been playing hard to get again. And that's okay. Whether you've been tossing and turning or just needed something calm to end a long day, you made it here. This space isn't about perfection or productivity, it's just about peace. Tonight, I'll be here with you through three different quiet stories. Nothing you need to remember and nothing you need to do. Just something for your mind to hold on to while the rest of you lets go. Before we begin, let's slow down together. Take a deep breath in. Let it go. And now, let's count down. Not to anything urgent, not to a task or alarm, but to stillness, to quiet, to sleep. 10. The weight of the day loosens its grip. 9. Your thoughts slow down like footsteps fading into the distance. 8. The noise, the pressure, the lists, they don't live here. 7. Your shoulders soften, dropping a little lower than before. 6. The air around you feels calmer, like it's holding you in place. 5. Your breath is slower now, even, easy. 4. No need to fight sleep. Just let it come when it's ready. 3. Your body is safe. Your mind is safe. 2. You are allowed to rest. And 1. You're here. And that is enough. Let's go back in time for a moment. Not to a war or a scandal or a moment of great discovery, but to a sleepy little town in Pennsylvania. One so small, if you blinked on a train ride, you'd miss it entirely. The town was called Eldenbrook. It had one diner, one grocery, and one train station, but no train schedule. You heard me right. For over 40 years, the Eldenbrook train station operated without a single posted time. No clocks, no announcements, no printed schedules. Yet the trains always came. It started in 1924 when a conductor named Lionel Merritt decided to run the local line on instinct. He didn't trust clocks, said they were a poor substitute for rhythm. He believed every town had its own rhythm, like a heartbeat. And Eldenbrooks, he said, was slow and steady. So the train should be too. Passengers would gather around the same time each day, give or take a few minutes. They'd sit, chat, maybe share a coffee from the corner shop. And without fail, Lionel would roll in, tip his hat, and say something like, right on time, even if time doesn't know it. The town never questioned it. And long after Lionel retired, his legacy continued. New conductors learned the route by feel, they said. Some swore they could sense the right moment to leave just by the way the wind rustled through the pine trees by mile marker 12. Now, of course, the outside world tried to fix it. One year, the State Transportation Board demanded the station install a digital clock and standardized schedule. The town council respectfully declined. They wrote, and I quote, Eldenbrook prefers presence over punctuality. And strangely enough, the trains remained some of the most reliable in the region. Rain or shine, the people of Eldenbrook knew when to show up, not by a clock, but by the way the air felt, by the sound of the birds, by the shadows the trees made across the tracks. They didn't rush, they didn't panic, they simply knew. Some said it taught them to trust themselves again. After all, in a world that is always pushing us to be faster, sharper, more efficient, there's something oddly beautiful about a train that comes just when it's meant to. Not a minute sooner, not a minute late. And maybe, just maybe, that's the lesson tonight. That you don't need to rush your rest. You don't need to clock in to sleep. It will come when it's ready. And when it does, it'll be right on time. Story number 2: The Midnight Library. So, here's something you probably didn't know. There used to be a library in Oregon that only opened from midnight to 6 a.m. No, really. It wasn't listed on any maps, didn't have a website, didn't even have a front sign. Locals called it the Midnight Library. And if you asked how to find it, most people would just smile and say, "You don't find it, it finds you." It sat at the edge of a foggy trail near the coast. No street lamps, no directions, just an old wooden sign with one word burned into the grain: enter. Inside, it was warm, always warm. Soft candles lined the walls, and the floor creaked just enough to remind you that the place had history. But the strange part, the books weren't sorted by genre or author or even title. They were sorted by feeling. One section was labeled for the restless, full of stories that rambled, wandered, never quite landed, but left you oddly satisfied. Another shelf read for the lonely, and people swore those books would make you cry and somehow still feel whole after. There was for the heartbroken, for the dreamers, for the ones who almost gave up. And way in the back, behind a faded velvet curtain, was a shelf labeled for those who can't sleep. You didn't borrow books there. You read them while you were there, and when you were done, you simply placed the book back and left. The Midnight Library had no staff, no checkout desk, just a single handwritten sign near the door that said, "Take only what you need, leave only what you've learned." And people did. Some came after long shifts. Others wandered in after hard conversations. A few came after years of not feeling anything at all. One man showed up every Thursday night with a thermos of tea and never spoke a word. A woman once came in drenched from the rain and read a book in the corner and fell asleep curled up in an armchair. No one ever woke her. Time felt different there. People said an hour in the library felt like a full night's sleep, that your mind quieted in a way it never could anywhere else. Scientists would probably say it was just a trick of the atmosphere, dim lighting, quiet sounds, maybe even something psychological. But the regulars, they knew better. They said the library remembered you. The books whispered your name. That if you listened close enough, you'd hear the stories choosing you. And maybe that's why it never advertised. Because people who needed it the most found it when they needed it the most. So tonight, if your mind is racing, if your body is tired, but your thoughts are still sprinting laps, imagine you stepped through that heavy wooden door. Imagine you've found the shelf just for you, the one titled For Those Who Can't Fall Asleep. And as you run your fingers across the spine, one of them feels warm, familiar. That is your story. You don't need to understand it. You don't even need to finish it. Just open it and let it read you back to sleep. Story 3. The Clockmaker of Rue, St. Paul. If you've ever been to Montreal's old port in the dead of winter, you know the sound snow makes when it crunches underfoot. Not loud, but sharp, like it's trying to stay awake just a little longer. Down one of those cobblestone side streets, Rue St. Paul, there's a tiny shop tucked between two art galleries. Its sign so worn it barely hangs on the wrought iron above it. It simply reads, Lord Loger, the clockmaker. Locals used to say the man inside wasn't just a craftsman, he was a listener. Not of people, but of time. No one really knew his name. He had a silver beard, a gentle voice, and always wore a vest with a tiny pocket watch sewn into the lining. The shop was filled wall to wall with clocks, grandfather clocks, pocket watches, mantles, even those tiny little cuckoo clocks with the wooden birds. But here's what made his shop special. Every clock inside ticked at a different pace. Some ticked slow and steady. Others ticked quickly, like a heartbeat after a sprint. And a few didn't tick at all until someone walked in who needed to hear it. He believed everyone had a time signature, like a rhythm your body and soul naturally kept. He'd listen to you speak, watch the way you blinked or tapped your fingers, and then, without a word, he'd disappear into the back. Minutes later, he'd return holding a clock and hand it to you. Most of the time, it didn't even work yet. It was just meant for you. And when you brought it home, you'd notice something strange. On hard days, the ticking would slow down. On joyful ones, it sped up. But on the nights when you couldn't sleep, the clock would tick in perfect harmony with your breath until both settled into silence. A woman once asked him how he did it, how he always knew which clock belonged to whom. He looked at her and just smiled and said, "Time doesn't move in a straight line. It moves with us. Sometimes we just need help finding our rhythm again." Some people say his clocks were magical, that they could turn back time or even freeze it. But the truth was quieter than that. His clocks didn't change time. They helped you stop chasing it. They reminded you that it was okay to move slower, to pause, to take a breath, to sleep. So tonight, as the world keeps spinning and the hours keep ticking, remember this. You don't have to keep pace with everything around you. You just have to find your rhythm, the one that lets you rest, the one that knows you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey tonight. May your dreams be sweet. May you sleep well. And know always that you are safe and you are loved.